Essential status for America's campgrounds, restrictions on dispersed camping near Moab, RV manufacturers post big earnings, and more. I'm Jason Epperson, and it's time for this week's RV and Camping News Roundup. During the early months of the pandemic, confusion set in over the ability of campgrounds to accept guests. It was abundant in many states, with some forcing campgrounds closed, considering them just recreation, while the campground industry argued that campgrounds provided temporary housing to all sorts of people, including essential workers like travel nurses, let alone residences for full-time RVers. The National Association of RV Parks and Campgrounds has been advocating since to get private RV parks and campgrounds classified as essential businesses, and on Monday, that finally became official. The U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, a division of the Department of Homeland Security, is apparently in charge of such things, and they officially transitioned RV parks and campgrounds from outdoor events to lodging, and simultaneously classified all temporary lodging, including hotels, but also RV parks and campgrounds, as essential. This now allows parks to operate and continue serving Americans in a health pandemic or natural disaster, a time when they're able to provide a critical source of temporary lodging and access to essential goods and services. A lot of campgrounds are the only place in a given area where you can get propane filled. Let's just hope we don't see another pandemic anytime soon. Nevada state parks will join the 21st century and finally implement a reservation system. The state's 28 parks are currently all first come, first served. A start date for the reservation system has not been announced, but it is estimated that it will be up and running by early 2023. The change is in response to the increasing number of people using Nevada state parks, just as they are everywhere else. Nearly half of Nevada state park visitors flock to just two parks. In 2021, Sand Harbor in Tahoe had more than 1 million visitors, and Valley of Fire near Las Vegas had more than 760,000 visitors. Those parks will also require reservations for day-use visitors, not just campers. Major restrictions on dispersed camping in Moab, Utah, and the surrounding areas are being considered by the Bureau of Land Management. The Moab field office is seeking public input on proposals to better manage camping in 3 popular areas that would include limiting camping to designated sites, the use of portable toilets for tent campers so human waste isn't disposed of on public lands, and the use of fire pans, packing out of ash, and a prohibition of cutting and gathering of firewood. The changes are proposed for the 120,000-acre Labyrinth Rims Gemini Bridges area, the 9,000-acre Two Rivers area, and the 16,000-acre Utah Rims area, along with the Sunshine Wall. BLM public lands managed by the Moab field office received more than 3 million visits annually, which is expected to continue to grow. A representative said that these proposals are not designed to limit camping, but to focus dispersed camping into areas that are well suited for that use. Written comments will be accepted until June 23rd. I'll put a link in the description. This episode is sponsored by the Togo RV app. The free Togo RV app offers maintenance reminders, recall alerts, checklists, and more for your specific RV. And if you upgrade to a Road Pass Pro membership, you get RV-friendly GPS routing, access to thousands of verified overnight parking location listings, discounts on lots of great products like tires and lithium batteries, plus premium access to the other apps under the Road Pass umbrella. Download the Togo RV app for free today and get $10 off your Road Pass Pro membership with the code RVMiles10X. The White House announced back in January a $50 billion plan to stave off catastrophic wildfires. Part of that plan was a massive increase in controlled burns, intentional fires that are meant to burn away fuel that caused rapid wildfire spread. Well, now these prescribed burns are on hold on all national forest lands, as 2 prescribed burns have caused actual wildfires. The Sims Fire in Ouray County, Colorado, and one of a pair of fires that combined to scorch 500 square miles in New Mexico were started by prescribed burns. The New Mexico fire has been the largest in the state's history. The U.S. Forest Service is now conducting a 90-day review of protocols ahead of resuming prescribed burn operations this fall. Wildfires are increasingly extreme due to drought and dry fuels across many parts of the country. The Forest Service says that about 1 in 750 prescribed burns goes bad, but prescribed burn operations are essential tools managers need to protect communities by reducing the threat of extreme fires. The Forest Service conducts an average of 4,500 prescribed burns every year. Goodyear is recalling more than 170,000 motorhome tires that experienced a high rate of failure. Tires that were last produced 19 years ago. G159 tires for 22.5-inch rims can be replaced for free. If you happen to still have them on an RV, please tell me that you don't. The tires are potentially linked directly to injuries and even deaths. The feds say Goodyear knew about the problem in 2002 without issuing a recall, well before ending production in 2003. And then, of course, they were still on the road for years after with no recall. A couple of RV manufacturers have released their quarterly earnings reports. Thor Industries, the largest RV manufacturer in the world, reported net sales of $4.66 billion for the period between February and April. That's an increase of 34.6% over the same period last year, and their profit margin was up 17.3%. They've made a dent in the backlog of orders to be built, both from dealers and customers. It now stands at $13.88 billion. Take that backlog with a grain of salt, but there are still a heck of a lot of orders to be filled, especially with motorhomes. Thor says they've returned to about normal operations and dealer stock levels for trailer production, but motorhome production still faces major supply chain issues. Executives expect motorhome inventories to normalize not till early 2023 and are realistic about the possible headwinds, mainly provided by high fuel prices, that may hurt the industry going forward. Meanwhile, Rev Group, which manufactures brands like Fleetwood, Holiday Rambler, and Lance, posted a loss for its most recent quarter, but it all came from the company's commercial and emergency vehicle divisions. Rev makes fire trucks, ambulances, and the like, as well as RVs. The RV segment had an increase in profits of about $3 million. About 90% of RVs sold are trailers, so Rev is at a disadvantage with the current supply chain issues affecting motorhome chassis, since motorhomes are their primary business. I should add here that you may wonder why we never mention Forest River's financial reports. And since Abby and I are brand ambassadors for their Sabre brand, I should be upfront about why. It's not because of our working relationship, and we've all agreed that we'll provide factual information whenever it's available, good or bad. But Forest River isn't a publicly traded company, even though they are the second largest RV manufacturer. It's a subsidiary of Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway company, so their financial statements aren't public. Meanwhile, independent consumer data firm Statistical Surveys Inc. says that retail registrations, actual sales of RVs, not just units manufactured, were down 30% in April over the same month last year, according to an article in RVbusiness.com. Through the end of April, there have been 152,883 retail registrations this year, a 21% drop versus the same period last year. That's a big drop, but last year was a substantial outlier in the history of RV sales. To this point, even with over 20% fewer RVs sold, this is the second best year for RV sales ever. Finally, fuel prices have hit an ominous number, a national average over $5 per gallon of gasoline. The cost of a barrel of oil is over $120, nearly double from last August, as increased fuel demand outpaces the tight global supply. Yes, demand is up over the same period last year for both gas and diesel is now up over $5.75 on average. People are still fueling up despite these high prices, says Andrew Gross, AAA spokesperson. At some point, drivers may change their daily driving habits or lifestyle due to these high prices, but we are not there yet. That's it for this week's RV and camping news. We'll see you next time.